Welcome. This is session 5. Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams of Joseph, God's faithfulness in the waiting. In this session, you're going to be reading Genesis chapter 41, and we're about ready to see life completely change for Joseph. We know he's been sitting in prison, completely forgotten. And at the beginning of this chapter, we're able to see that it's been 2 full years. So Joseph has done a lot of waiting. But everything's about ready to change. We see in this chapter how Joseph points us back to God. He knows that it's God giving him this ability to interpret dreams. And he's given a position of leadership now in the land of Egypt. No longer is he in prison. No longer is he a slave. But towards the end of the chapter, we're clued in a little bit to how he's still viewing his life. In Genesis 41, verse 52, it says, "The second son he named Ephraim, and said, 'It is because God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering.'" So here we see that he knows that God has blessed him in many ways, but he still has been suffering, and it's been hard. So what does God say to us about suffering? Of course, in our lives, we wish that we didn't have to suffer, but in the New Testament, we get some information about how there can be purpose in our suffering. In the book of Romans, chapter 5, verses 3 and 4, it says, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." There's a similar passage in the book of James. In James 1, verses 2 through 4, it says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." We see in both of these passages that God can use suffering to do something within us. He can help us to create that patient endurance that we might need, that perseverance, that character, that hope. So if you're going through a season of suffering right now, think about what God is producing in you. In the story of Joseph, we're able to see that Joseph has a real humility. He's got wisdom at this point, and God has been working in him clearly in some ways in that time when he was in prison. He's also using all of those leadership skills that Joseph was given and developed in his time in slavery, when he was serving, when he was leading. God is going to use those in powerful ways. And now Joseph is in this position of leadership. I can only wonder what must have been going through his mind, thinking back to those dreams that God had given him. He's not in his homeland, but I bet he's wondering if his brothers are going to show up. And we'll see in the coming chapters that they do. So I want to encourage you that if you are suffering, know that your suffering is not wasted, that God is at work. Even if you can't see it right now, trust him. He is faithful. He's faithful in the waiting. He's been faithful to Joseph in the suffering. And I'm excited to see what you'll learn this week.